Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. Some breaking news coming in at the top of this bulletin. President Donald Trump has reacted to questions from reporters on his jibe at Brazil, his interference in terms of who should really be taking the calling the shots in the country, and on Canada. Listen into what he has to say about Bolsonaro, again saying he's an honest man and he can tell an honest man from a crooked man. A straight attack on the current president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
He was a very tough negotiator, and I can tell you he was a very honest man, and he loved the people of Brazil. He was a very tough guy to negotiate with. I shouldn't like him because he was very tough in negotiation, but he was also very honest. And I know the honest ones, and I know the crooked ones. He was a very tough negotiator, and I can tell you he was a very honest man, and he loved the people of Brazil. He was a very tough guy to negotiate with. I shouldn't like him because he was very tough in negotiation, but he was also very honest. And I know the honest ones, and I know the crooked.
It's Canada now, a day after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose 50% tariff on Brazil and demanded that the witch hunt against former President Jair Bolsonaro be immediately stopped. Trump, on his Truth Social account, posted that 35% tariff will be levied on Canada starting the 1st of August.
After Brazil, the Trump administration has now gone after Canada. Less than a month after US President Donald Trump attended the G7 summit in Cananaskis, Canada is now going to face 35% tariffs on goods starting August 1st. Trump announced the tariff on Canada by posting the letter on his Truth Social. He also threatened additional blanket tariffs of 15% or 20% on most trade partners. A day before Trump threatened to impose 50% tariff on Brazil starting August 1. Canadian PM Mark Carney said his government is committed to protecting the interest of its people. A blanket tariff of 25% has already been imposed on some Canadian goods. The country has also been impacted by global tariffs on steel, aluminium, and auto. Trump also blames Canada for not being able to stop the flow of fentanyl into the US. Canadian PM Mark Carney, in his response, said on X that Canada has made vital progress to stop the scourge of fentanyl in North America. US's global threats of tariffs and Trump's interference in the domestic matters of other countries, forcing some of them to act according to his whims by threatening heavy tariffs, has been condemned by China.
Sovereign equality and non-interference in internal affairs are fundamental principles of the UN Charter and basic norms of international relations.
Brazilians protested in Sao Paulo against Trump threatening to levy 50% tariffs.
O presidente se pronunciou ontem, né? O Brasil é soberano.
Brazil does business with other countries, so just as we depend on them, they also depend on us, and perhaps even a little more. But it's time for them to understand that Brazil, Latin America, is not their backyard. We cannot be taxed and think that's okay.
As Trump widens his tariff war on other countries, the recent being Canada, Europeans are bracing themselves against what comes next. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
A bipartisan bill to protect Taiwan's undersea communication cables from China has been introduced in the US Senate. The act urges for the deployment of real-time monitoring systems and improved maritime surveillance against any sabotage.
A bipartisan bill to protect Taiwan's undersea communication cables from Chinese grey zone tactics was introduced in the US Senate. The Taiwan Undersea Cable Resilience Initiative Act was introduced by US Senators John Curtis and Jackie Rawson, both members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The act urges the Department of State, along with the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security and the Coast Guard, to deploy real-time monitoring systems, improved maritime surveillance and enhanced international cooperation to defend against sabotage. Grey zone refers to unconventional tactics used to gain a strategic advantage without provoking open conflict. According to the Taiwan International Solidarity Act, UN Resolution 2758 does not prevent the US from using its vote, voice, and influence to oppose efforts to undermine Taiwan's position on the world stage. The solidarity legislation also encourages US to work with allies and partners to oppose China's efforts to undermine Taiwan's diplomatic relationships and partnerships globally. Since February 2023, at least 11 undersea cable disruptions have been reported around Taiwan, most of them linked to vessels suspected of deliberate interference. A version of the bill introduced by US representatives passed the US House of Representatives in May. The two bills introduced must pass the Senate and the House before the US President can sign or veto them. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
How big is the threat from China? To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Ian Rolby, maritime expert and president Auxilium Worldwide. He joins me from Washington, D.C. And thank you so much for joining us. Now, this is a very important bill that's being introduced in the U.S. Senate to protect Taiwan's undersea communication cables from Chinese gray zone tactics. What does this mean? What's the threat? And how important are these undersea communication cables?
Well, this bill signals a desire to support Taiwan in protecting itself against one of the greatest threats to its continuity. Submarine cables provide 99% of the telephonic and internet communication that we rely on today. And cutting that off means cutting us off from the entire world. So many systems would go down, from cash and ATM points to all the systems that we rely on for defense and security, all the way just to basic communication. So the need for those cables to be intact is absolutely critical, and this bill affords an opportunity for the U.S. government to provide additional support and be creative in how it helps protect Taiwan's resilience against any kind of interaction with those cables that China might try to interfere and cause disruption.
Okay, Ian, what really prompted U.S. lawmakers to take this step now? Why a bill focused specifically on protecting Taiwanese cables?
Well, I think this is symbolic of a broader review of just how fragile and vulnerable our infrastructure is relating to submarine cables. We are reliant on cables that are literally the size of a garden hose for so much, and this signals that we need to do something in order to make sure that China, which has in multiple cases in the past disrupted Taiwan's cables, aren't as easily able to do so in the future. And so this is perhaps a microcosm of a bigger problem, where we see cable cutting in the Red Sea, in the Baltic Sea, and elsewhere, and we're trying to come to terms with how best to approach it, because right now we have a limited number of tools for protecting them, and we have a limited number of tools legally for what we can do outside of our own territorial waters. So China's advancement of technology specifically designed to cut cables and cause this kind of catastrophic disruption is what I think has prompted the bipartisan action on this front.
Okay. The bill also, mentions gray zone tactics. Can you explain to our viewers, Ian, what that really means? How does China use such tactics to target undersea infrastructure?
Okay, the gray zone is conceptually the space between peace and war. We all can feel that the maritime domain, particularly in critical places like around Taiwan and the South China Sea, are a bit more conflictual than peaceful, but aren't quite to the level of war. So these tactics are used in order to create doubt and uncertainty and cause a disruption to our normal thinking process. Now, what China has done very successfully is attack critical infrastructure in subtle ways. Now, submarine cable infrastructure is a particularly vulnerable piece of material. It is so easily disrupted that even sharks in the past have been able to bite cables and cause disruption. And so this is kind of low-hanging fruit for attempting to cause uncertainty and instability. If China is looking in some ways to advance through a sort of non-aggressive or directly aggressive hostile means, this is a very good way to do so because it cuts people off, it slows down internet, and it diminishes the ability to engage in transactions. $10 trillion of economic activity go through those cables every single day. And so any kind of disruption, particularly at scale, causes all kinds of economic hardship and logistical nightmares. And so this is a way of softening the will of Taiwan, perhaps, to be able to be more susceptible to other types of attack and other types of advance. And so this is a bill that would help support Taiwan in trying to become more resilient against that. But it is something that we need to look at around the world because the operational tools for protecting cables are limited. The legal tools are even more so. And we need to do a lot more to come up with a way to safeguard this infrastructure on which we rely so critically today.
Ian Ralby, thank you so much for joining us and explaining to us what this really means. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was indicted by Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal. The tribunal accepted charges of crimes against humanity filed against the ousted Prime Minister. A three-member panel indicted Hasina, former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan and former Police Chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al Mamun on 5 charges. Hasina and Khan are being tried in absentia. The Awami League has condemned the trial and called the tribunal a kangaroo court. The trial started on the 5th of June. Bangladesh's interim government, headed by Mohammad Yunus, had sent a formal request to India for Hasina's extradition. The charges against Hasina include mass killings, murder and torture. Chaudhry Abdullah Al Mamun, who is in custody, has requested to become an approver, which has been accepted by the bench. Now, the Houthis released footage of what they claim is the sinking of the Greek-operated Liberia-flagged vessel called Eternity Sea in the Red Sea. The damaged ship is shown partially submerged before sinking, leaving behind a whirlpool and oil slick. The ship Eternity Sea has been verified. Details matched, such as onboard cranes, hull paint, bridge structure. Though the location is not verified, the vessel's last reported location through its automatic identification system was in the Red Sea. Eternity Sea is the second ship that the Houthis have attacked this week. Houthis had attacked more than 100 ships from November 2023 to December 2024. This, they said, was their solidarity with the Palestinians.
It is not permissible for any company to transport goods for the Israeli enemy through the declared area of operations. Our position in this regard is firm. What happened is a clear lesson to all maritime transport companies operating to serve the Israeli enemy, that they will be dealt with all this level of firmness. Our Yemeni position is firm and decisive, and our decision to prevent navigation for the Israeli enemy in the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden and Arabian Sea is permanent as long as Israeli enemy continues the aggression and siege of Gaza.
Federal immigration agents detained Mahmoud Khalil on March 8th, the first arrest under Trump's crackdown on students who joined campus protests against Israel's devastating war in Gaza. Khalil, a legal U.S. resident, was then taken to an immigration detention center in Jena, a remote part of Louisiana, thousands of miles from his attorney and his wife. Today, he sues the Trump administration. Here's a report.
He's not resisting. Like, there's no use for this. Don't worry about it. You're gonna have to come with us.
Education, not deportation! Education, not deportation! 1, 2, 3, 4. Deportation, no more!
Mahmoud Khalil, a pro-Palestinian activist and alumni of Columbia University, filed a complaint against Trump administration seeking $20 million in damages, alleging that he was falsely imprisoned and maliciously prosecuted. His complaint accuses President Donald Trump and other officials as an illegal campaign to terrorize him and his family post his arrest.
She said they're taking him to 26 Federal Plaza.
He named the United States Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the Department of State as defendants for unlawfully imprisoning him.
I'm initiating a process to seek accountability from the Trump administration for false imprisonment, for warrantless arrest, for intentional infliction, emotional distress, all of these things that I had to go through for over 100 days. And also for the chilling effect that such actions had on our community, the groups supporting Palestine, on students in general, and just on the American public as well.
Khalil further stated that he either wants an apology or the money.
What I'm asking for, it's either this sum of money or an apology, an official apology from the administration for the wrongdoings that they did against me and against others as well.
After US President Donald Trump took over office in January, Trump issued executive orders for the removal of foreign nationals deemed to have hostile attitudes towards the US or who were accused of supporting threats to the national security. One of the order instructed federal authorities to take action and remove such aliens from the US. Khalil was the first major arrest in Trump's crackdown on the student protests. He was arrested on March 8th and was later released after serving 104 days in custody on June 20th after a federal judge found that government's attempt to deport Khalil on foreign policy grounds were unlikely unconstitutional. Khalil is a legal US resident and a face for the Palestinian solidarity movement in the US. After the start of Israel's war on Gaza in October 2023. While Khalil pledged to continue his efforts to fight against Israel's war in Gaza, the question is how will the Trump administration react to his claims?
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
China will sign up to a Southeast Asian treaty banning nuclear weapons in the region as soon as all documentation is ready. Malaysian Foreign Minister Mohammed Hassan, while speaking to reporters on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, said China made a commitment to ensure that they will sign the treaty without reservation. Beijing's move to agree on the treaty was welcomed as top diplomats met in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Foreign Ministers meeting. ASEAN's objective is for the world's 5 major nuclear powers, China, the United States of America, Russia, France, and the United Kingdom, to sign the treaty and commit to non-use or movement of nuclear weapons in the region, including nations' exclusive economic zones and continental shelves. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said that it is in communication with ASEAN countries regarding the signing of the treaty. After 4 decades of conflict with the Turkish state, the outlawed Kurdish PKK held a ceremony to mark a symbolic first act in laying down its arms. About 30 fighters, men and women, placed their weapons in a cauldron, starting a disarmament process expected to last all summer. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said the ceremony marked an important step towards our goal of a terror-free Turkey, unquote. Since the PKK launched its insurgency against Turkey in 1984, originally with the aim of creating an independent Kurdish state, the conflict has killed more than 40,000 people, imposed a huge economic burden and fueled social tensions. The PKK is listed as a terror group in Turkey, the US, European Union and the United Kingdom.
Once the wall of terror is torn down, God willing, everything will change. More pain and tears will be prevented. The winners of this will be the whole of Turkey. Turks, Kurds, and Arabs. Then it will be our entire region and all our brethren in the region.
Tüm bölgemiz ve bölgedeki kardeşlerimiz olacak.
A French appeals court cleared convictions against two women who allegedly claimed that France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron, was a male before she married French President Emmanuel Macron. The court ruling has now sparked a wide controversy. Take a look at this report by Neha Kumari.
A French appeals court cleared convictions against two women who allegedly claimed that France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron, was a male before she married French President Emmanuel Macron. The court ruled that Amandine Roy, a self-described spiritual medium, and Natasha Ray, an independent journalist, had every legal right to make the allegation. The charges first surfaced in December 2021 during a 4-hour YouTube interview hosted by Amandine Roy. Natasha Ray claimed to have uncovered what she described as a state lie, alleging that Brigitte Macron was originally a man named Jean-Michel Trogneux who transitioned before marrying the French president. The sensational claims went viral, fueling conspiracy theories online. Brigitte Macron responded by filing a libel lawsuit against the pair. In September 2023, a court initially ordered the women to pay 8,000 euros in damages to First Lady and an additional 5,000 euros to her brother. The French president called the rumors false information that disturb intimacy. President Emmanuel Macron married Brigitte Trogneux, a woman who is 24 years older to him. Macron, then a 15-year-old schoolboy, met Brigitte, who was a teacher at a private school in northern France. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
From the brass alleys of Moradabad to the global headquarters of Apple in Cupertino, Sabi Khan's journey is nothing short of iconic. Born in Moradabad in 1966, Khan spent his early years in India before his family moved to Singapore. A brilliant student, he pursued economics and mechanical engineering at Tufts University, followed by a master's from RPI. Here is more.
From the brass alleys of Moradabad to the global headquarters of Apple in Cupertino, Sabi Khan's journey is nothing short of iconic. Born in Moradabad in 1966, Khan spent his early years in India before his family moved to Singapore. A brilliant student, he pursued economics and mechanical engineering at Tufts University, followed by a master's from RPI. Khan joined Apple in 1995 and spent 3 decades building the backbone of Apple's global operations, from procurement to sustainability. He was instrumental in reducing Apple's carbon footprint by over 60% and played a key role in reshoring manufacturing to the US and India. On the 9th of July 2025, Sabi Khan was officially named Apple's Chief Operating Officer, succeeding Jeff Williams in a planned transition. Apple CEO Tim Cook hailed Khan as a brilliant strategist who has been one of the central architects of Apple's supply chain, adding that Khan leads with his heart and values. Social media lit up with pride, especially about the techie's incredible journey from Moradabad to Cupertino. The elevation also sparked hopes that Apple will make its production debut in Uttar Pradesh soon. Sabi Khan joins a growing league of Indian-origin leaders commanding global tech giants. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet, Satya Nadella, Chairman and CEO of Microsoft, Shantanu Narayan, CEO of Adobe, Arvind Krishna, CEO of IBM, Neil Mohan, CEO of YouTube, Nikesh Arora, CEO of Palo Alto Networks, Thomas Kurian, CEO of Google Cloud, Sanjay Mehrotra, CEO of Micron Technology, George Kurian, CEO of NetApp, Jayashree Ulal, CEO of Arista Networks, Vimal Kapoor, CEO of Honeywell, Anirudh Devgan, CEO of Cadence Design Systems, and Revati Adaivithi, CEO of Flex. Together, they represent a powerful diaspora, controlling companies with a market value of nearly $6 trillion, 50% more than India's GDP. And even as US President Donald Trump forces Apple to quit India, the company is deepening its Desi footprint, and Sabi Khan's ascent is both a personal milestone and a strategic signal. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
That's all in this edition of World Today. But before I go, here's what I leave you with. Designer Dema bids farewell to Balenciaga, which he led as creative director for the last decade. Kim Kardashian, Naomi Campbell and Isabel Huppert walked the runway along with other models who had collaborated with Demna in the past. Kardashian's look was Demna's ode to Elizabeth Taylor. She wore a mink coat made of embroidered feathers over a silk slip and Taylor's diamond pendant earrings, which now belong to a private collection. Goodbye and take care.